So hello everyone, welcome to our Work Well live webinar. So you're all very welcome. If this is your first time, you're very welcome. If you're returning, you're even more welcome. So our Work Well webinars are all about sharing and learning. We're just about kind of getting information out there into the community. We want to work and support organizations in embedding a culture of health at their workplace. We're probably all coming at that from different angles. Some of us will be starting out, some of us will be a little bit more advanced, but we're all here to learn from each other. And today, delighted to welcome two real leaders from Irish Farrell, who are going to talk to us about their award-winning CIPD award-winning wellbeing program. So Sharon, Daly and Farrell, you're both very, very welcome. So Sharon, you're health program manager in the area of health and wellbeing at Irish Farrell. And Anne, you are a health promotion executive at Éireann, Irish Farrell, and also CIE Group. Maybe first, just by way of saying hello, tell us a little bit about your own backgrounds and how you got into the position that you're in today.
Anne, you go on first there. You were here before me.
I suppose my background is nursing, and I studied health and safety in UCD, but there was a module on health promotion. Oh God, this was over nearly 25 years ago. And I went off and studied health promotion, and then got I suppose I worked in different industries such as Intel, Hewlett Packard, IBM, and got a job with CIE in 2002, a long time ago. So I'm based in the occupational health unit, and so I suppose I work cross company, but have been doing a lot of work with Sharon lately, and it's great to have colleagues in the wellbeing space. I didn't have them until about 2 years ago. So Sharon has helped set up the whole champion network in Irish Rail, which has been fantastic. And yeah, no, it's onwards and upwards. It's a really exciting area. There's lots of happening in it at the moment. So yeah, so that's my background.
Brilliant. Yeah, so you were on your own for a while, Anne, and then Sharon came along. Sharon, and you've kind of established more of a team there.
Yeah. So it's go ahead, Sharon.
Yeah, so I joined in November 2020, and I suppose it's at that point we were in a lucky position that the business had really seen a need, for having somebody full-time in Irish Rail, because Anne is across the whole CIE group, and now she does it over 10,000, 10 or 11,000 people. So Irish Rail decided at that point that it was time to really invest, and we have like a budget for our area over the last couple of years as well, which is obviously really important to have that from leadership support as well, really vital. So yes, I've been here since November 2020, and prior to that, I suppose I am quite different to Anne. I started off in my career working in marketing. So I did that straight out of college. I did a master's in marketing, worked in marketing for a little while, and soon realized that actually I wanted to be in the health and wellbeing space. So I went back and retrained, did health promotion qualification in NUI Galway full time, and had a fabulous year in Galway. Did personal training, lots of other shorter courses on top of that, and then I went to Australia for a little while. I worked with Aboriginal communities around quitting smoking and other health and wellbeing programs there, which was amazing and really interesting. And then I've worked with the Heart Foundation, Cancer Society. I've done some lecturing with NUIG, a few others, and then for quite a long time was involved in the behaviour change programme with the National Transport Authority around active travel, and then came into this role as programme manager. Then I said, feels like a lot longer in some ways, but it's two and a half years probably at this point, whatever, June. So in the midst of COVID, 2 weeks after moving house, so it was a bit of a whirlwind, but it's been fantastic, and the support around the organisation for this area is phenomenal across colleagues, various levels, across management. We're at a really good time in the organisation. The business is really supportive, so if we can justify an area that we need to support and address, then we are getting that buy-in from management, which is amazing. And I get really excited saying that, because I feel for so long in this country, there weren't full-time jobs, wasn't really much going on in the space, and particularly in workplaces formally, and anything you got, you were kind of fighting for in business cases and trying to get little crumbs here and there. So it's an exciting time, and as Anne said, we've developed a panel of health and wellbeing champions around the country, which are brilliant. So Anthony, who's here, is one of them, but we have around 50 people across the organisation, which are a huge asset to us, and a massive part of our success in winning the CIPD HR award, which we were pretty shocked but very excited about earlier on. Was it March time? I think it was. Yeah, so that was pretty exciting. So yeah, I'm going to stop talking now. It's a bit of a long-winded intro.
Well, it's an excellent intro. It's great to hear of your own backgrounds as well, and kind of the different backgrounds, but also there's overlap in there as well, a little bit of health promotion across both, and also then the transport backgrounds and some really interesting work abroad then as well, Sharon. So it's not, it still isn't today, I think, a linear path, is it? If you're interested in working in this space, there's quite a few different ways to get into this area. So really interested to hear more about that, and also about the kind of work you're doing at Irish Rail as well. Maybe just before we get into that, I do a little bit of a poll for everyone joining us, try and make it as interactive as possible. I get a feeling for who's on the call. So you should be seeing that, if you're joining us, you should be seeing that popping up on your screen right now. So just to get an idea of maybe your role, but why you're joining then as well. So maybe you're in a company and you're interested in improving upon this area. Maybe you're in a company we look to sell services to other companies. Maybe you work for yourself, you're self-employed, so that would negate that. And maybe just none of the above, maybe you're just simply curious. And then kind of to Anne and Sharon's point, I mean, we're interested to know, do you have a bit of a team that is fully dedicated to this area? Do you have is it one person that's full-time and dedicated to this? Maybe you've got someone that's part-time and HR, HR plus wellbeing or DEI then as well. So maybe let us know if that's the case. Be interested to know that. Is that certainly a changing landscape at the moment as well? And then the final question is around, I'm calling it an ERG, so an employee resource group. Some you might call them the wellbeing champions, wellbeing ambassadors, wellbeing steering group, committee. The naming doesn't really matter, but I'm just curious to know if you have one of those. That might be a volunteer group, people giving up a little bit of their time, like the Anthonys of this world, who's a full-time train driver, but he's also gives a little bit of his time to the wellbeing group. Okay, so just to give 10 more seconds or so on that, 84% participation, so that's pretty high. So you're probably not seeing those results as yet. I'm going to share them on screen now in just one more moment. Thanks everybody for participating. Maybe you can hear a screaming child in the background as well, and if you can. It's part of the joys of working from home.
That's the reality.
Yeah. So,
I can emphasize, Brian.
So you should be able to see that now, guys. I'm not just going to inform your own presentation now, but we're seeing a very high percentage there, kind of the working in a company and interested in improving well-being for their colleagues or doing something in that area, 77%. Lower percentages then looking to sell services or working for themselves. Go back to let more people still coming in, which is fantastic. The second question, I work for a company and we have, is this more than one full-time resource? So there's a quarter now of what you might call a team. So more than one person. And we've got about 10% then with one full-time resource. But the majority there are actually, if you put the next two together, between a part-time resource and then no one, I suppose, that's over 50%. And then probably the last bucket is probably the maybe self-employed people then. And in terms of, let's say, a wellbeing champion team or network, looking at 38% have one, and well over 50 then wouldn't have, some not applicable then. Any thoughts on that, Sharon and Anne, on those results?
It's interesting. There's a kind of spread, I suppose, across the various areas. I don't know, Anne, if you wanted to say anything. Sorry, you look like you're about to speak.
Yeah, well, it's good to see the figures are going up, since I remember seeing a poll you did before, so in the last few years, there's definitely a real escalation of this area, and it's seen as a corporate piece that, management want to support. So
definitely, yeah, and you're right. The numbers are on the increase, aren't they? So that's really, really positive to see. So listen, thanks everyone for participating in that. Sharon, and I've got a video to play for you guys. Will I kick that off now, and then we get into your presentation?
Can I just say one thing? Sorry, I should have said. Realize I think Jennifer, who's our relatively new colleague who joined us in January, is on here. I can only see a few people on screen, but she's over here beside me, but I'm pretty sure she's joined us here as well. So just to acknowledge Jennifer, and I think Siobhan D. Shout out to Jennifer. I think Siobhan D, who we work with in our Ignition Go Health and Wellbeing program, is somewhere here as well.
I see Siobhan there. Yeah, she's waving later.
I can't see you, Siobhan, but anyway, I know you're probably there. There's just lots of faces. Okay,
I'm going to play this video. I think it's a 2-minute video, and then we'll get into your presentation.
Thanks, Frank.
Oh, technology team, technology.
Okay.
Let me try that one more time. There's that screaming child back again.
It's your internal voice with the stress of the technology, Brian. That's what it is.
I'm just imagining it. Okay, I think we might be in business here now. Technology is fantastic, isn't it? Okay, here we go. I think we might be in business.
The development of this new state-of-the-art chief medical facility epitomises how we believe we should invest in the support to our wellbeing strategy. We are developing a wellbeing strategy in conjunction with all our key stakeholders and indeed with our trade union colleagues. We've embraced and listened to what our staff are saying and what the key managers are telling us what they believe is appropriate for us. The visibility of the wellbeing agenda at board level is key.
Working in the medical department and supporting the rollout of the health and wellbeing programme, I have noticed there has been a positive staff engagement and also reported positive outcomes of employees' health. We joined the Family Carers workplace programme for staff who are carers, and this has been hugely beneficial for staff, and they feel the organisation truly cares.
The focus of the Health and Wellbeing programme is to support our colleagues to enjoy life outside of work, and also to support them to be as productive and fulfilled and safe as possible within their roles. So really being fit for work and for life. One of the successes we've had in the programme over recent years is the engagement from our panel of health and wellbeing champions. We have 50 health and wellbeing champions spread all around the country in various roles, and they've provided huge support to the health and wellbeing agenda, engaging their colleagues locally and feeding back as to the challenges and opportunities to support health and wellbeing within their local area.
In my role as a champion, it's about communication, conversation. We've had health checks also in Galway. We've had the Walktober, the Step Challenge, getting people involved. We've lost a couple of colleagues in recent years, and that has been tough. It has hit the station very hard. By being aware of your health and well-being, by being aware of everything that's out there to support your health and well-being, it's vital, and it's about getting people to talk and making sure people are okay and making them aware of the help that's out there if needed. So for me, absolutely, it has been a huge impact on me personally, and I think it's fair to say from talking with colleagues across the network and in my own location, it has been a positive impact, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, excellent. Excellent video. Of course, Irish Rail won the CIPD award, a Wellbeing Award at the award ceremony this year. And Sharon and Anne, you're just going to tell us a little bit about some of the steps you've taken, some of the work you've done that helped achieve that award. Will I hand over to you guys for a presentation?
Absolutely. I'm just sharing the screen there, if that is working.
And as we go through this, guys, if anyone has a question, a comment, please pop it in the chat, and I'll try and get it to Anne and Sharon as we step through this.
Yeah. Can you see the slides okay?
Looking good.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Thanks, Brian. And I suppose just to say that the video was put together as part of our entry for the CIPD HR Awards, and myself and Anne, just on reflection and preparation for today, thought it would be useful to give that kind of wider insight to the group. But I think particularly Stephen at the end, another one of our drivers and health and wellbeing champions, you know, gives a really, I think, powerful insight as to the reality, you know, on the ground every day for people, and that support and opening the conversations is, you know, has a real impact for people. So we thought that would be really useful to share. So I'm just going to see if these slides will click on. Oh, okay, so I suppose, yeah, you'd mentioned about CIPD, so I just wanted to show, I suppose, a quick photo of the award, and I suppose we were absolutely delighted and you know, surprised but delighted to receive the award. And you can see there the picture on the left. We had a conference there last month, and we were able to celebrate the award with some of our health and wellbeing champions who could attend on the day. They were delighted to get their hands on the trophy. Unfortunately, we couldn't have the whole group come along to the award ceremony with us, but maybe next time. But as I said, you know, an award is great to really understand and benchmark where we are, and also I think for the business to helps heighten that profile, especially at board level, to really make, I suppose, ensure the continued support from the board that we are on the right track and, you know, working in the right direction. In terms of our approach to what we do, so we've been really clear about building strong foundations for health and wellbeing and embedding ourselves within the international evidence and best practice that exists. So the World Health Organization have strong foundations and approach in terms of workplace health promotion, as do Healthy Ireland with their framework. And I know, Brian, you've spoken about that, and there's been a lot of work done sharing that framework and the implementation of it. The Railway Safety Standards Board, which most people in the call probably haven't come across, because I know before I got into this space I wasn't aware of their work, but the Railway Safety Standards Board, I suppose, originally were a safety body and tie in very closely with obviously all the railways. But over the last number of years, they have a dedicated health and wellbeing function, and they're very much research-led, but looking at the practice of bringing the research into practice in the railway environment, which is quite a unique environment. So we are guided and link in with that organisation as well, and that's, you know, for our foundations to ensure that what we do is evidence-based. In terms of who's involved in our programme, so we have fantastic support from our Chief Executive, Jim Mead, and there's myself and Anne, and Anne sits within the CIE medical department. We also have doctors and nurses, and we have a counsellor there as well, so that's part of the medical function. There's also our health and wellbeing steering group, which are the senior leaders across the organisation, and we have our health and wellbeing committee, which includes representation from our trade unions, and then, as we've mentioned, we have our health and wellbeing champions. And I've put the employees at the centre because everything we do is linking back and getting input from our staff network as well. And just highlighted,
Sharon, I'm not sure if you're going to go into detail on the champions a little bit later, but Edel is already asking about that. How do you secure buy-in from, I guess, from the champions, even in the first place, to take on the role?
For the champions themselves?
Yeah.
You know, really interestingly, actually, because when I joined first, I suppose what I kind of was involved in doing a bit of a needs assessment to see where we needed to be and what space we needed to be in and what we should be doing. And it quickly became apparent that it's a very difficult environment to communicate with, because we've so many people like walking tracks, out on site, driving trains, manning trains, doing revenue protection at barriers, office staff all over the country, you know, at rail barriers and stuff as well. So the champions were vital to that. So I decided there's a couple of ways we could have gone. We could have asked managers to assign people to the role, which I was really against, because I wanted people who wanted to be a champion and who really cared to get involved. So we put a call out, an application across the organisation. It went out in a staff magazine to home addresses, along with a health and wellbeing survey to all staff during COVID. So I think it was May or June time 2021, and we had a huge number of applications came in from health and wellbeing champions explaining, you know, why they wanted to get involved. And it was actually really touching, the amount of input from people about how they wanted to look after their colleagues or, you know, support each other. And, you know, some sharing experiences like what Stephen had mentioned in the video there about, you know, having lost colleagues and really coming from that side of things, really trying to support each other. So that side was actually quite straightforward in terms of the champions. I suppose the other piece that we've been working on is the buy-in from managers across the organisation to really support the champions in their role. And that's, I suppose, the piece of the puzzle now that we're working on. But we have great support from our Chief Executive, Jim Mead, in that, and he is acknowledging the role of the champions and the importance. So I hope that over time that will be really embedded within the functions that managers are, you know, nearly making sure they have a health and wellbeing champion in their area. So that's the aim. Does that answer the question? Okay,
it does, yeah. And it's great to hear that the champions, they had a real why, a real driver as to why they wanted to be wellbeing champions. So, you know, no one was forced into this. They were doing this. They had a real kind of driver, pardon the pun, you know, for wanting to be a wellbeing champion. This is clearly people are really interested in this. So if it's okay, Sharon, Kieran is asking, well, like it's kind of similar. How do you select? But then how do you train the wellbeing champions? And what is their role? And what commitment is needed from them to carry out the role?
Sure. So. Sorry, the first bit was about training, was it? Sorry.
Yeah, well, he did say about select, but I think we've covered
selecting.
That.
And then
the training,
the training piece. So we have training for champions once a year. So the first year it was run by the Railway Safety Standards Board. They do champion training, and obviously they're specifically, you know, in the rail industry. So we felt that was really relevant, you know, for us. So they ran the champion training for us, and then through our Ignition Go health and wellbeing program that Siobhan D is here, as I mentioned, Siobhan ran training for our champions earlier this year as well. So this was the promise to our champions, because we're really conscious of the give back. Like, there needs to be something in it for them, and obviously they're, you know, the champions generally do feel that they are benefiting themselves and they're supporting their teams, but we want to make sure that they were also getting something like for their CVs and stuff as well. So we have promised annual training annually, and we also put on a training with Mental Health Ireland. So they did a one-day workshop around their Hello, How Are You campaign for staff. So that is, you know, that once a year piece is the minimum that we will offer to our health and wellbeing champions.
Ongoing training for the champions.
And they were, at the start, they were also offered health coaching as well, you know, personal health coaching through myself and Siobhan.
Fantastic.
I'm not sure if Anthony wants to say anything, as he is a health and wellbeing champion from his perspective. I don't know.
If you want to contribute, Anthony, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, you've covered it perfectly. And yeah, I took part in all the training. I found it very useful and helpful. Even Anne's personal coaching was fantastic. So what they provide to the wellbeing champions is sufficient enough to keep us going and keep us interested. And it would definitely make sure that it's kept on a voluntary role, because, you know, you start to point to people or paying them some kind of supplement, I don't think it'd be as effective either, you know, in that kind of role.
Very good, yeah. And I think the RSSB, as you mentioned earlier, Sharon, is an interesting kind of unique body in that they provide, the Railway Safety Board, they provide wellbeing champion training for rail workers in the UK and Ireland. So not every, you know, demographic or organisation would have that body available to them, I suppose. So you're kind of unique in that regard.
Yeah, and I mean, they do an awful lot more as well, which is quite interesting in terms of their research. So I've kind of pointed a couple of people to some of their research previously, and I know Anne has as well, particularly around this competency framework that they have, which they launched, I think was it January this year or last year? The time is flying. It's hard to keep. This year, was it?
Yeah, he's a human factors specialist. But they have a healthy cultures group as well. You know, they've a lot going on, which is great for us.
Yeah, and it's applicable, I suppose, to other industries, you know, as well. That the work that they're doing. So their framework is around competencies that managers across any part of an organization should possess in order to support a culture of health and well-being. So, I mean, it's a lot of things around, you know, creating that open conversations, honesty, trust, a lot of very basic skills of managers, but again, looking at them as competencies, as things that we should be looking for managers, which is, I think, something that we should aspire to across the country and the world, really, that these are the kind of leaders that we want. It's not just a manager, it's, I suppose, being a leader and bringing people along and having that supportive environment, really, for people, so that if there's something going on in somebody's life, that they can, you know, I suppose, be open. I don't mean they have to tell the nitty gritty of what's going on, but just to feel comfortable that, you know, I'm not in a good space today. Can I just, you know, get a bit of accommodation or support or whatever the case might be.
And Professor Sir Carrie Cooper often talks about how important the role of the line manager is in the area of workplace wellbeing, workplace health promotion. That's sometimes where things can break down, even if you have the leadership support or you have your network. You know, if the line managers aren't on board with it as well, that's where that can be a real challenge.
Yeah, that's where I think it's very important to get KPIs for managers, you know, that it's embedded, you know, that they have to show evidence of engaging in our wellbeing program.
And on that subject, do you have that? Do you have KPIs? Those KPIs?
Not yet. We're working on it, absolutely. It's been highlighted at senior levels a few times, but we're not there yet.
Okay.
We're looking at some of the standards, like the 45,003.
Oh, 45,003 ISO. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, we might come back to that. This is brilliant stuff here. There's clear interest in this area. We'll be doing well to get through your presentation, but again, a good way. And just maybe the final part of Kieran's question was like, what is their role and what commitment is needed for them to carry out the role? Maybe if there's a quick answer on that.
Sure, yeah. So I suppose in terms of the way I summarize the champion role is that they're a conduit of information. So they share information with us as to the challenges and opportunities that have arisen in their area for support. So where, you know, their colleagues need support, where there's opportunities for us to support them. And then I suppose they're the other way around then. So then they're the conduit for us sharing back information through them. So for example, you know, whatever the support is that they've looked for, that we can kind of channel that information back through the champions in terms of sharing through their WhatsApp groups, through posters, through their tea rooms, to the other various channels that they might have. So that's, I suppose, the main piece. I mean, there's other bits and pieces that get picked up along the way, like when we're running health checks, some of the champions will help support us in organising rooms locally for nurses and meeting them and all that kind of stuff as well. So it varies, but essentially the summary is the conduit of information. So Anne, are you going to add to that?
Anthony?
Yeah, just what you were talking about, the other benefit to having the wellbeing champions is that you have workers mixed in with the workers, and they're on the, you know, they can get the true meaning of what's going on, where employees might not want to raise issues with management. They complain enough about them, but they won't go any further with it. So you're getting the true culture, so to speak, of what's going on the ground, and the wellbeing champions can feed that back then to the health management team. You know, not like we're spies or anything, but you know, you can relate the real problems that they probably otherwise wouldn't hear about. You know.
Yeah, and there's a real honest dialogue. You know, sorry.
Yeah, especially for the invisible staff, like night workers. You know, having the champion is an advocate, the voice for those invisible people that we find it hard to access.
And they're an excellent, the conduit, as you mentioned, the communication tool, but also all the different role types can be included in that champion network, as you mentioned. Brilliant stuff. We're absolutely flying here. There's another quick one from Sharon is we should have just concentrated on the wellbeing champions here. Sharon is asking, how does the champions and steering team and steering committee differ? So you've got each area. The health and wellbeing champions and the health and wellbeing committee.
Okay, so the steering group are the senior leaders. So I'd say about half of the steering group will report to our chief executive. So they're at that kind of level. So again, they'll input strategically on the direction. So they're, I suppose, not necessarily involved in the implementation. Our Health and Wellbeing Committee are, I suppose, more hands-on in terms of the practical aspects and challenges and opportunities. And as I said, the trade unions are involved there as well. So some of the committee will link in with local practical support. Others will advise, don't do it that way, because do it this way because that's better, kind of thing. Some of them will get involved in a little bit more detail. And then the champions are really the people who are supporting the implementation locally in terms of making sure that the information is reaching their colleagues, encouraging their colleagues to engage. So I suppose I didn't mention that piece, but that's a huge piece. And I know one of the slides Anne will touch on later on, like an outcome for one of our champions last year was that he'd opened a few very closed minds. And I think that's a phenomenal piece of a phenomenal outcome, because that is, you know, the reality for a lot of people, that there's a lot going on, and you know, they mightn't necessarily engage. So, and I know we've spoke this morning, Brian, about engagement and engaging people. So the champions are huge advocates in engaging their colleagues and breaking down barriers and building trust. And you know, even things like as simple as our employee assistance program, you know, the champions will highlight, you know, what the service is, but also nudge and encourage people where relevant, you know, to take to access that service as well. So it's that really local kind of link. So
brilliant. Yeah, and as Mairead is highlighting in the chat, yeah, it's about breaking down the barriers piece. Can be so important, can be challenging, and so the champions can definitely help in that regard. I'll very quickly just mention, so Anthony, thanks for asking. Anthony, does the Work Well Institute offer Wellbeing Champion training? Yes, indeed we do. I'll put the link up now. Thank you for asking, Anthony. And Owen is asking, just what was the name of the organisation about the competency framework? Was that the RSSB?
That's the RSSB. Yeah.
So I think for
the
Owen,
guy's name is
Rail organisation.
Sam Waters is the guy. He's a human factors specialist.
Okay,
Sam Waters. He's on LinkedIn.
Okay, brilliant. And Anthony's answering some questions here on the chat, which is brilliant. Thanks, Anthony. So, sorry, Sharon, back to you.
Yes. Would you like me to continue? Yeah.
Please.
Are we good to go? Okay. We'll see if the slides still work. Let's see if they'll move on for me now. Okay. So I suppose some of the challenges that we have come up with at various stages. So we've 4,300, although actually I think this has increased quite a bit. There's been a good bit of recruitment. I think we're closer to 4,500 staff now spread around the country in over 145 locations. We've 89% male workforce with an average age of 47 years. So again, that I suppose that aging demographic, you know, chronic disease prevalence, you know, is higher. We have a very traditional culture by the structures and the organisation. We have a lot of people working on shift and out on site. So you know, the online stuff and that piece is quite challenging. We have access to healthy choices and cultures. Healthy food in areas is quite difficult. Again, if people are working very shift patterns and in different locations, it can be challenging. Unfortunately, you know, there are fatalities on the line from time to time. So this is a challenge for our own staff as well in terms of, you know, dealing with this. So where there are, you know, people who choose the railway to end their lives and step in front of a train, which is absolutely horrific, and it does happen. So again, that's a huge piece for obviously everybody involved. The workload, there's a huge investment in rail at the moment, huge demand, so that's obviously creates challenges as well. There's a low turnover of staff, which is great, but I suppose change can be a challenge in a traditional culture, and the capacity for health and well-being. And thankfully, this is changing and growing, and there is a real interest in this area. But obviously, you know, we have a huge spread, so we still have, you know, plenty to do. I suppose just in terms of where we're, what our focus is, and I thought this was important to really step back and highlight. So our aim is to create a workplace environment where the health of employees, both mentally and physically, is embedded within the culture of the organisation, enabling a thriving, engaged and productive workforce. So that's our ultimate aim. So we're really trying to create that supportive culture. So it's not just about, you know, the individual and supporting that personal skills and personal health resources at an individual behavior change level. It's actually looking at the environment around where people are in their day-to-day work. So we focus on actioning this through the World Health Organization's workplace wellbeing model that you can see on screen there. So there's the central piece, which is absolutely vital. And I think, you know, over the last few years, we've made good inroads on the leadership engagement and worker involvement. I think that's, you know, really important. The personal health resources, absolutely vital, and Anne will speak to some of that. And the program that Siobhan D, who's on the call here, has been involved in, the Ignition Go program. So Siobhan's been leading on that for our staff, has been hugely supportive in developing those personal health resources for our colleagues. The physical work environment is an important area for us, the psychosocial work environment, and then linking with community. And we've done a bit around that area as well. So this is kind of the fundamental core of where our focus is. I suppose just to bring you through some of these areas. So in terms of leadership, so health and wellbeing is highlighted as a priority, which is fantastic. As I said, we've fantastic support from our Chief Executive, Jim Mead, and you can see him there launching our Family Carers program. And only, I think, was it last week or the week before, Jim had his leadership conference, and he'd invited staff from around the country, and a good portion of the afternoon was dedicated to health and well-being, which is fantastic. We had David Gilligan speaking about mental health, and Anne and myself were involved in a segment there as well. So again, it's really bringing that focus to the room. He's not just talking the talk, he is walking the walk. He's also getting involved with us this week, as this week is Family Carers and Men's Health Week. So Jim is leading a webinar for us on Thursday this week for staff about himself personally as being a carer to his mother, and also, from the men's health perspective. So he's, an open and honest leader, and he inspires many. Jim, for anybody who doesn't know, has worked his way through the organization. He originally started as an apprentice, so again, you can see how a lot of people would relate very strongly to him across the organization. So he's a really important person for us to have on board. The other piece, I suppose, just some of the images there are around, I suppose, how originally there'd been a lot of, I suppose, reminding and asking people, can we come and share, do you need any support? And now I suppose the tables have turned a bit, and that we're being asked to be involved in terms of the health and wellbeing team. Are being asked, can you join in this, can you get involved in this strategy day, can you link up with this event? So there's more and more interest and demand, which is fantastic. It's growing all the time. And I suppose we'd highlighted Conor Doolan there in the middle, because he is really a fantastic manager and leader. He's really walking the talk for his own team, and living by all those competencies in that RSSB framework. He looks out for his team of apprentices and minds them and guides them, and is fantastic in all aspects of their health and well-being as a manager. The worker involvement, which is the other central piece in the middle of that table that I showed a moment ago. So absolutely, as I mentioned, this photo here is some of our health and wellbeing champions receiving their cert last year from the RSSB for their champion training. But the worker involvement is centered around the health and wellbeing champions. There was also questions on the employee opinion survey last year around health and wellbeing. We had our own dedicated health and wellbeing survey, the baseline survey in 2021. We're linking in with the health and safety survey this year. We also poll staff through our internal Work Vivo channels. And then the building capacity piece, as you mentioned, Anthony was involved in the Trinity program, and Brian, that you run, and there's other colleagues who link up with additional training and support as well. So we do really try to involve our colleagues as much as possible in every aspect of what we're doing, and really the program is led by staff needs, and Anne will speak to that a little bit more in a minute.
I love the survey example, Sharon, and I've used that a few times myself. Your own one here, just you've got your survey results, but you're being transparent about them. You're sharing them, and you're not just sharing them in a kind of boring old email. You've obviously invested in kind of a nice infographic there. Colorful infographic, getting the statistics out there and sharing that. I think it's it's simple, but it's a really nice way to get the message out there that anybody can kind of consume.
Yeah, and actually one other piece that worked quite well, and we've kind of brought it into other aspects of the programme in terms of some of our initiatives and challenges and bits and pieces, is the charity donation piece. So what we did here is the Health and Wellbeing Committee chose 5 charities, and on the survey, people could choose which charity they wanted the company to donate to on their behalf. So every survey that was completed, the company donated €2 to charity. So then you got to pick which of those, where your €2 went, if that makes sense.
Oh, nice. So so there's a little bit of an incentive there even for completing a survey.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes. Because you can't run a competition if it's an anonymous survey. You can't draw names out of a hat if you don't ask the names in the first place because it's anonymous. We learned that one pretty quickly. So before I hand you over to Anne, just to mention around the physical environment, I suppose this piece is really important, and like this for us is probably the long haul piece, because the physical environment piece will take longer to make changes, but there's been, you know, lots done already. So, you know, we are safety rigorous because it's an industry requirement. We have a human factors program and a just culture. We've new HR systems in place. There's a 5-year pay deal, which has an impact obviously on people from lots of different aspects. There's been a mobile device rollout. So all staff over the coming months will actually have their own device, whether it's a tablet or a mobile. And this is really important for us as well in terms of connectivity and access to, you know, reach people as well. New facilities, there's a huge upgrade in facilities around the organisation. And I suppose there hadn't been that funding available and investment for a long time. So that's really important. They even have a quiet room in Galway. They've lovely, really, you know, health focused facilities in Galway, lots of networking spaces there as well, and actually working on a wellbeing garden with our champions in Galway. There's notice boards for health and wellbeing. You know, we've had linked in with some health and safety events, and we've even done some colouring for mindfulness with some of our staff in Rosslare, which was really interesting and actually went down quite well. We thought it was slightly bonkers of an idea out of myself and Anne initially, but they really enjoyed it and got really into it. And you can see the picture up there of Rosslare Port coloured in by staff, and they added their own little logos and things onto some of the shipping containers and things as well. So I suppose that wider piece, there's lots of new systems coming on board for patient management and the occupational health department as well, and we've added in extra pieces around catering contracts to include healthy options. So that structural physical environment piece is really important, and we've lots more to do, but that's what we're at the moment with some of those physical environment aspects. And again, a lot of these things are raised through our health and wellbeing champions, so that's a really important piece for us as well.
And Sharon, maybe on that, related to that, Jenny is asking, and I think I know the answer to this, but do your champions take on local initiatives that vary from other locations, but you know, they're important to that specific team, or do you work from one strategy or calendar of events?
So, excuse me, sorry. So there's a bit of both. So we have a calendar of events for the organisation, and then locally there is the opportunity to get involved in different things. I suppose the champions often will bring something to us. So for example, you know, in Westport, they asked if they could have a kind of vegetable plot, so we kind of gave some funding to that and supported it. In Galway, they're doing a garden down there as well. So we're linking in both funding through ourselves and through sustainability department. Another good example is in Houston. They had a group of staff who were looking to quit smoking, and they got in touch and said, can you help? So we linked in with the HSE and I suppose set that up for them. So there's a bit of both. So that was a Houston piece, and now that's developing around the country. So we have our wider program, and then, you know, we want the champions to come forward and look for, I suppose, local support as well. So both. We like to keep ourselves really busy. Is that okay?
That's brilliant, yeah. And Una, as you're saying, she loves the holistic, integrated approach, showing health, safety, and well-being, how each of these are all interdependent of one another.
Thanks, Una. I'm going to hand you over to Anne. I can't see anybody or any of the questions, so just shout if you have any more, but I'll hand over to Anne if that's okay. And Anne, if you need a nod with the slides, give me a shout.
Thanks, Sharon. So this slide is just around personal health resources, and like we mentioned before, we did with our last survey, we found out 45% of staff were interested in health checks. So we've ran them for the second year in a row, and we way past their original numbers. So these were in 21 locations, and we went with a company that offered extra blood testing as well, and a good 60% of staff actually took that extra, you know, they paid for the extra bloods. And I think especially for men, it's easy access when it's in the workplace. You know, it's so hard to get a GP's appointment and get the time off, but this is something that staff really do value. And also the 540 flu vaccines were administered through our parkHIIT department as well. So 46% stated they had a caring responsibility, and like Sharon mentioned, our CEO Jim launched the Family Carers Ireland programme in June. So there's been lots of webinars and different groups linked with autism, the caring for the elderly, and this has really gone down well, and it's the first time people can actually have a platform to speak about their caring role. And I suppose, you know, managers becoming aware around offering flexibility for staff who are carers, you know, it keeps them in the job, which is important. So 30% expressed an interest in improving general health around activity, sleep, weight. So lots of challenges were linked in with the park run, walking challenge, October as well, 50 days of movement, and also the Ignition Go behavioural change programme. This started as a 6-month programme. It actually started with Siobhan D from the diabetes department doing a survey with transport workers, and she interviewed 1,000 transport workers. And I suppose what came out of that, there was a very high incidence of developing diabetes. So we were very interested in what she offered, and this program has become a very bespoke program for our needs, and it was extended for another 6 months. So it's coming to an end at the end of June. So we're just going through the evaluation processing, you know, report at the moment. But and it's offered lots of, I can go in more detail, I suppose, from the other slide. But we have cycling and hill walking clubs as well from our that's champion led. 30% were unaware of our employee assistance program. So there was a campaign highlighting our EAP program, and that usage went up by 25%. You know, it's still, we need the usage is kind of pretty low, but we're getting there, getting people to utilize the service. Menopause was also an area that people were interested. We've had events to open up that conversation. UV outdoor workers, we had a campaign around that, and also there's been a new UV hat for employees. You see the guy there in orange, he's wearing the hat. So the guys are appreciative of this kind of PPE, also for outdoor workers. So also access to information, proactive network of 50 champions, you know, just we're also just onboarding WellHub, which is an employee health and wellbeing platform. So this is where the champions can actually share information and resources. So we hope to kind of launch that at the end of the month. So yeah, and the quick campaign, and also the Men's Health Engage program is one I run as well. I'm running a workshop at the end, 27th of June, for our staff. This is aimed at anyone that works with men, and I'm also part of the Men's Health Advisory Group. So with Men's Health Week, we're pretty busy at the moment, just highlighting all the different daily themes. So you can roll it there, Colette. So the Ignition Go program is there to support our staff and their personal health and well-being journey. It comprises of weekly webinars, expert speakers, bespoke one-on-one health and nutritional coaching, in-person events. So we've had over 500 colleagues signed up, plus at least lots more attending our live events and online as well. High engagement, positive feedback. We've had 3 conferences to date with over 160 attendance, and then the last conference was recorded, so we had 2,300 online views for that. So that's really brilliant. Getting, you know, the people that can't physically come having access. So some of the quotes from the program. The whole family has changed breakfast, and we have really increased our veg intake. The great thing is I feel much better, and I know it's doing the kids good. Someone else mentioned they have more energy. They felt sniffles and sore throat coming on in a few days ago, but before I would have needed antibiotics and a few days off work, but it passed and I'm fine again. These small things really work. And this other lady mentioned, my husband has been doing it all with me reluctantly in the beginning, and now he's all up for it. His blood sugars are much better. The doctor said he does not need medication. So not only is this really great information from Ignition going just to our employees, it's radiating out to families and probably to communities as well. And our latest programme with them is Feel the Best for Summer. So this has been run at the moment, and the Sun Smart campaign as well. This is some of the qualitative data that's come back from our employees. I'll just read out one. This lady says, absolutely, I've lost a total of 24 pounds since I started, and I feel I'm making more conscious decisions to improve my health in the long term, and no longer looking for quick fixes. So this slow approach is so much better. So I'll move it on there, Sharon, thanks. So community involvement is part of that WHO framework, and we're very conscious of connecting with community. And our latest campaign is linked with the sustainability department, because under our sustainability strategy, wellbeing is one of those pillars. So we're linking in with Grow It Yourself. So they're providing us with 100 grow boxes for staff. And then we're partnering with communities such as the Men's Sheds and community gardens. There's another 100 that we are giving out for free to communities. It starts just at the end of this month. We also had Anthony lead on the Hello campaign in Mental Health Ireland, and we partnered with them. So that's been really positive. We link in with the Park Run, and also with the some of the challenges. Employees were able to select local charities, and in Arklow we had a team that won the walking challenge, so their charity was the RNLI. So lots going on there with community, and then the Med Sheds as well. So other community involvement is linking in with Family Carers Ireland. So just some of the quotes here from our staff. Irish Rail, being a member of Family Carers Ireland, has helped create a structure and roadmap for employees who are carers that was never there before, and also helped copper fasten for managers their ability to respond to the needs of their employees. And Sean, who's a carer for his son Evan, says, I've had other colleagues approach me about challenges they have had as carers. These open conversations would have never happened years ago. So I just think that's really positive that people in their canteens are talking about. And at the reality, we have a middle-aged cohort, and you call them the sandwich generation. You know, they have young kids and elderly parents as well, and some may have autistic kids as well. So I
love what you've been sharing. Like Adam Grant talks about, if you want to bring people with you and on your wellbeing journey, leaders or the wider workforce, it's hard data and human stories. Yeah. And you've got both here. You've got that survey data you're mentioning earlier, and you're peppering you've got your human stories in there quite a bit as well. So yeah, loving to see that.
Yeah, thanks. So the psychosocial work environment is really important in developing that psychological safe place where people come to work and feel they have connections. So the champions are really leading on this, and Kelly O'Reilly, she's one of our, she started up the hill walking with Anthony, and she says engaging with the other wellbeing champions has been refreshing and emotionally uplifting for me. We decided to make a WhatsApp group to help encourage each other. During October, Ben, another wellbeing champion, dropped local med honey to each member of the WhatsApp group so we could take it to build up our immunity for the winter. I now take the honey every morning, something positive for my health, but each time I pick that jar up, I'm reminded of the kindness behind it. And we just want to develop that culture of kindness, and it's not rocket science, it's all that little stuff, random acts of kindness, and we're just the humanity piece is important. And she says also, oh sorry, I'll just look at Tom's, he's one of our other champions, but he mentions that it opened up a few very closed minds. It's already began with frontline staff in my area starting to support each other in various ways in difficult times. He had a bereavement himself recently and was recently impressed by the support it gave. So all of that is building a good. So key learnings is using our Well on Track brand. This brand came up, it was an employee competition, so it came from the employees. So also aligning initiatives with organisational objectives, consultation with staff, follow through on what staff ask for, action, and that visibility piece. The power of your wellbeing champions to connect with staff and promote events. Ensure all departments and locations have a wellbeing champion, and consider staff welfare issues. There's no point going in talking about nutrition when maybe the kitchens and bits, we need to look at the basics. Ensure senior management are visibly committed to workplace wellbeing, that it's not, they're involved. Use evidence-based models of workplace wellbeing and continue to evaluate and review constantly. Also thinking creatively and allow the program room to grow. And we use a company called Theatre at Work, and so we were thinking about using them for the key competencies for managers, that getting actors in to kind of explain a concept, I think has worked well in the safety side of the house, so we're looking at them for the well-being. Consider gender needs when engaging with staff. Definitely, because I am a men's health engaged facilitator, men have a whole different approach to well-being, and I think to women. So we have to kind of take in the concept around masculinity and I suppose barriers for men in accessing help, and also the female needs around pregnancy, menopause, that needs to be looked at, and also linking in with other railway networks. And I'm part of the Healthy Cultures Group and the Railway Safety Standards Board, so that's been really good for us. Is that our last slide? Brilliant.
I love it. Absolutely fantastic presentation. I love how you've aligned so closely with the WHO avenues of influence, and of course now Healthy Ireland, the Healthy Workplace Framework, also aligning with that, and you've clearly covered that. You're covering those 4 avenues very clearly in what you're doing. Maybe if it's time for 1 or 2 final questions, I'm conscious of the time, everybody, maybe pop them in the chat. I think there's a lot of comments coming up that are being answered in the chat, which is great. One question coming up for yourselves is, and Sharon, I actually asked you this very question quite recently, so I know you've got a really good answer for us.
Oh, do I? Great. I probably won't be able to remember what it was, but anyway.
Well, I'll remember it for you if you don't. Have you considered using the HSA's Work Positive tool?
Oh yeah, I don't know, Anne, we were talking about this. Do you want to answer this one, because this is
well, I suppose we did present the Work Positive. This is Patricia Murray. She's the psychologist with the HSA. She covers this program. But I suppose we want to be, if we're going to do it, we want 100% buy-in. And it's I suppose it's like, some managers would be maybe quite hesitant about it, because it is like opening up a can of worms and thinking, oh my God, we've hot area. It's kind of a traffic light system. There's a survey, and we were trying to kind of explain to management, well, these red lights, there's maybe not a problem now, but there could be a problem down the road around psychological issues. But it's definitely something that I would like to do, and it's very clear roadmap, and we would get support from the Health and Safety Authority to do it. So I think it's worthwhile.
And the longer term plan, I suppose, as opposed to within the next 6 months.
Yeah, no, because it is an excellent tool, and Una was asking me about it. I know she's an advocate for it, and she has used it herself to really positive effect. But I think, Sharon, you had been saying to me like that it is, as good as it is kind of quite technical. It is quite detailed. I think is it up to 35 questions. So maybe you kind of felt you were still almost starting out. You didn't want to be hitting the population base with 35 questions. Have to be completed online, I believe.
Yeah. Well, you can adapt your questionnaire. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I suppose that, and the challenge is, like a lot of organizations, that survey fatigue and the opportunities to survey are more stretched. Like, I know we ran our baseline health and wellbeing survey 2021, which is purely just for health and wellbeing. But since then, there's been a lot of big surveys, and for us as an organization, there's such a huge undertaking to get a survey out there and to get a representative sample, because you've got people in so many different types of roles, and a lot of people who aren't on email or connected, and even paper-based, trying to collect them and all that is quite a challenge. So like this year, we're going to include questions around health and wellbeing in the safety survey, because that's a mandatory survey that has to go out as part of our legislation. So we'll include some health and wellbeing questions in that, and hopefully try and do that around the place, because it's quite challenging to do, and I don't want to add to people's stress levels by sending around more surveys and pushing people. So I suppose it's that engagement piece. We need to build to get to the point where we can, survey and then have the focus, and have at the same time that the management understanding enough about, like what Anne said, about what's really involved in the work positive before they commit to it, so that we can take the actions that are proposed on the back of it. So brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I think we're on that evolving journey.
Claire actually saying something similar, kind of the survey fatigue, and for that reason they didn't pursue work positive at this time. But it's a really good point you're making. If you're going to be doing a survey, any survey, you need to have, it's not just the survey itself, you need to allow time post-survey for analysing the results and then taking action on whatever you find. If you're not taking action, then you're pretty much wasting your time, and in fact you're probably going to create a lot of negativity and cynicism if you're not taking action on the outputs as well. So
and I suppose as well, because we have our champion network and we've quite open lines, in every scenario that we're in with staff, whether it's in Jim's event last week or other events, we will say the door is open. And like, we do get an awful lot of people get in touch outside of the champions as well as through the champions. So we do constantly have that checking in and dialogue going. So just the more formalized survey piece will be useful. But I think for us at this point, embedding those questions within other surveys for now, but I do think we'll have our own again down the line.
Final question from me is, I'm sure the award process, actually filling out the application and submission kind of takes time and effort. I'm guessing, especially when you win the award, I'm guessing it's worth it, the benefits in terms of, let's say, visibility and for leadership. You were asked to present at the Healthy Ireland recent session, this particular webinar, for example. I'm guessing that that helps, that really supports what you're doing, and success breeds success.
Yeah, I suppose for us, it's reinforcing to management that this is important and that they are investing in it appropriately and that they should continue to build on it. And that's the line we've been using, I suppose, at the awards ceremony. Our CEO came to myself and Anne to say, well, this is great, well done. And we said, so now we need a bigger team. So I suppose with those conversations, it's really helpful, because this area is new to a lot of people. A lot of people, even with the best interest and intention, maybe don't fully understand exactly what it means. It's not just about bowls of fruit. And still it is that learning curve. And I could see Heather laughing there. I'm sure there's others, I can't see others, but I think it is that learning curve for people. So this helps, because we frame it back to them and say, well, this is what we won based on. And it's like, oh, okay, so we need to do more of this, and it can be funded. So sorry, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say, Anne.
Oh no, it gives visibility, and magnifies. I think when they're in the room and they see all these other companies, and and I suppose we have such a safety critical industry, that health and well-being, or health and safety, the health piece needs a lot more focus. Because we can have great safety systems, but the people operating it, what's their health like? I think that's the piece.
So we still have plenty more to do.
a lot done, more to do, but you're definitely on the right track. Pardon the pun. That's the first time I mentioned that today.
Plenty of puns.
Plenty of puns. Yeah. Cool, Sharon, and that was absolutely fantastic. There's kind of nothing quite like, I don't know, just listening in, sitting through an example, a case study, and that was a brilliant case study. And as you said, you're still on the path, but you've made brilliant progress so far. So thanks so much for sharing what you've done. I'm guessing people can reach out to you on LinkedIn if they want to.
Sure.
If we didn't get to any questions today, I'll pop my email in there. It's brian@workwellireland.ie, or go straight to workwellireland.ie for any further details. If you've registered, you'll automatically go onto the Workwell mailing list if you're not already on that, and I should have a copy of the recording then as well if you want to share this with your colleagues, or maybe you can get in front of the senior leadership team, show them what they're doing at Irish Rail. That can sometimes incentivize a senior leader maybe that isn't budging. So I'll share that link with you all next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Sharon, listen, everybody that's tuning in, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. But for anyone that hasn't seen enough of me today, I'll be in Tangent later this evening for the open evening. So if anyone's interested in the postgrad and workplace wellness at Trinity, there's an open evening between 5 and 8 p.m. I'll just see you all there for anyone that's heading. Thanks,
Brian,
everybody.
can I just say,
Please,
sorry,
yeah.
I just wanted to acknowledge the team. I mean, it is truly like we have a fantastic team who work really hard, they're really passionate and genuinely care. And I mean, that including our champions, Anthony, Siobhan, we've pulled in as part of our team, even though she doesn't work for Irish Rail, it feels like she does, because Siobhan is passionate about looking after our staff and supporting us in everything we ask and we decide in our mad plans sometimes. And Jennifer and Anne has been leading the charge when nobody else was listening, and this space wasn't as cool and sexy as it is now. So just want to acknowledge the team. I'm not sure if any of their champions are tuned in, so apologies, I can't see if you are, but just acknowledge that wider group. Yeah, onwards and upwards, as we say. We'll keep moving forward.
Brilliant. Really
Thanks,
well said,
Brian.
Sharon, and thanks to yourself and the entire team for everything.
Cheers, Brian. Lovely to see everybody. Thanks for all the questions.